Hello human beings, PowerGamer here. It's December, and back in the 90s, that always meant the new Mega Man title was going to be released, though that track record stopped with the 8th game in the series, and I can't help but wonder why. Oh, right, it's because oversaturation is indeed a thing, but don't worry, the Mega Man series would never have to deal with that again in the decades to come. Instead, they overcorrected.
Mega Man 8, what originally seemed like the Blue Bomber's swan song, one of the biggest outliers in the Mega Man series since it was the only mainline game released for the 5th generation of consoles. Sure, there were some spin-offs like X4 through 6 and the Legends duology, but in terms of classic Mega Man, this was it. And it doesn't seem to be one of the most popular entries in the series, though it's not exactly unpopular either. It's kinda in that weird gray area between well-known and forgotten. But where did it come from exactly? Well, after Tokura Fujiwara, one of the main producers of the previous games, left Capcom, longtime art director and series co-creator Keiji Inafune stepped in to fill his place, with the art duties being handed off to newcomer Hayato Kaji. Inafune stated that, like some of the previous titles, the team felt pretty overwhelmed during development, though this time it was largely due to them working with several elements that they were unfamiliar with. They created a new character named Duo specifically for this game, however, he technically made his debut in the arcade spin-off Mega Man 2 The Power Fighters. Well, that's one way to ruin the hype. And like past games, the Robot Masters were designed by fans as part of a contest. One of the biggest things that made this game stand out, though, was that it was the first Mega Man game to release on 2 separate consoles. There was one version on the PlayStation and another on the Sega Saturn, and they were roughly the same game, although the Saturn version had a couple extra bosses and some bonus content. And even more interesting was that they weren't planning on releasing the PS1 version outside of Japan, since Sony wanted to focus more on 3D games as opposed to 2D ones, but they changed their mind when they found out it was being released on one of their competitors. I think that would have been fine, but hey, I'm not gonna complain. The PS1 version of Mega Man 8 was released on December 17th, 1996 in Japan, and the Saturn version was released exactly 1 month later on January 17th, 1997. Both versions would come to North America in March of that year, and Europe would get the PS1 version in October, but not the Saturn version. Oh well. The game sold well initially, though still nothing mind-blowing, and reception was pretty similar to the past few Mega Man games in that while people enjoyed it, they also felt like it didn't really do that much to push the series forward. I think it was pretty clear people were getting tired of classic Mega Man at this point, since they had 8 games released in the span of 10 years, and 6 of them were all on the same console. So this would begin a whopping 11-year hiatus before it finally returned with Mega Man 9, but that's a story for another time. I mean, there was technically a side game called Mega Man Base, but that doesn't count. It was later included in the Anniversary Collection as well as Legacy Collection 2, but only the PlayStation version, not the Saturn, which is a little disappointing.
I've never played this game before, and I'd say it falls somewhere in the middle of how often Mega Man games are discussed. It's not as often as 2 or 7, but it's definitely more than 4 or 5, so I'm hoping I have a good time with this. Back to Legacy Collection 2 we go.
We actually have a story that's a bit more involved this time. It opens with 2 giant robots battling in space before they eventually collide with each other and start barreling towards Earth. We then cut to Mega Man, who's in a scuffle with Base, asking why they need to fight. He then shoots him into a building and is picked up by Roll, where he gets a call from Dr. Light, who asks him to investigate a strange meteor that hit Earth. Kinda like Mega Man 7, we have a proper opening stage on a beach that ends with you fighting a hermit crab robot. Upon reaching the crash site, Mega Man finds Dr. Wily stealing this weird orb and the remnants of a giant robot. He calls Dr. Light, who says he'll come pick it up, and then he tells Mega Man to go find Dr. Wily and his new set of Robot Masters. Well, the story is about as basic as the past games, there is a bit more development as it goes. Okay, it's still really simple at its core, but you can tell they're at least trying to make it a bit more complex. It is pretty whatever, but you don't really play Mega Man games for the story anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We've jumped up another console from last time, so once again we got a huge graphical upgrade. This game looks fantastic. It honestly might be my favorite looking game in the series. The sprite work is wonderful, and we get a great variety of colors. I do slightly prefer how Mega Man himself looked in 7 since his face was a lot more visible and expressive, but everything else looks even better. And the music is obviously awesome, and a lot cleaner too, since it was composed for a CD game instead of a cartridge. But one of the biggest steps forward is the game actually has fully animated cutscenes, which look pretty good for the time. They even come complete with full voice acting, and it's awful. Yeah, this is some of the most infamous voice acting to ever come from a video game, and it completely lives up to the hype. Mega Man sounds like a girl and pronounces Base's name wrong.
Hey, Zach! Why must I fight you?
This guy talks so quietly that you can barely hear him.
I sense the original energy exists in that tower.
And Dr. Light has this weird speech impediment that makes him sound like Elmer Fudd from Looney Tunes.
We don't know who he is, and it's dangerous to leave him alone.
I'm hunting rabbits.
I know standards were a lot lower back then, but seriously, why did any of this get approved?
That's a good question.
I think we all know how Mega Man games work by this point. You pick a stage, you jump, you shoot, you fight a boss, you use its weapon, you repeat. But this game does shake up a formula a little bit. For starters, there's a pretty big change to Mega Man's moveset. For the first time ever, you can use both your Mega Buster and your special weapon at the same time. The triple shot from 7 has been removed, and instead is the dedicated button for your special weapons, while the main attack button is your normal shot no matter what. I think this is a really cool cool change, since you don't have to constantly switch back to your main mode if you want to preserve your weapon ammo, and it makes hitting larger groups of enemies much easier since you have 2 types of shots at once. Unlike 7, you can still switch instantly with the shoulder buttons, which is nice, though I really wish they gave the slide its own dedicated button, since it would make some sections much easier. I already felt this way before, but this game only magnifies it.
That aside, I think this game controls pretty well, but on top of that, they actually made some pretty drastic changes to the level structure.
Much like 7, you only start with 4 robot masters for some reason: Tengu Man, Frost Man, Grenade Man, and Clown Man. Really glad I don't have a fear of those. Now, their levels are quite a bit longer than the ones from the previous game, so this one will likely take you much longer to beat, which makes sense given how it was released on much more advanced hardware. However, the levels are divided into 2 sections, and about halfway through you reach a continue point, which is typically after you defeat the level's mini-boss, if it has one. This not only fully restores your health and weapon ammo, but if you get a game over, you restart from here instead of the beginning of the level. This is fantastic, since it makes the levels feel way more forgiving. I still think lives are an inherently invasive design concept, but I really like how this game makes dying a lot less punishing. But another way this game is more forgiving is that for the first time ever, weapon ammo is restored after you die. So you can actually use the weapon that the boss of the stage is weak to during the level without screwing yourself, and if you die against the boss, you don't have to worry about restarting the whole stage just to get it back. Another thing I am super grateful for. But sadly, not all changes are for the best, since lying behind all this is something I'm really not a fan of. They got rid of E-tanks in this game, and I have no idea why. Sure, the life system is more forgiving and weapon energy is restored, but E-tanks were still a really helpful tool in defeating bosses, and especially towards the late game, their lack of inclusion feels really missed. You can still collect bolts to take to the shop, which is run by Roll this time, however it works totally differently. Instead of bolts being another thing you get from defeated enemies, they're a set collectible you have to go out of your way to grab. Instead of buying temporary things like E-tanks and extra lives, the shop now sells you permanent upgrades giving you bonuses, like removing knockback, doing a different type of charge shot, or letting you exit a level. Seriously, why is that something you have to buy again? Yeah, the game doesn't really hide upgrades in the levels like before. The rush abilities not only work differently, but you just get them sporadically for beating levels, much like in Mega Man 3, and all of them are new. There's Rush Bike, where you ride on him like a motorcycle and shoot enemies, Rush Bomber, where he flies by dropping bombs, Rush Question, where he just gives you a random item, and Rush Charger, where he flies back and forth dropping ammo and health restoration, so I guess this is the replacement for the tanks. Now, unlike before where these things had an ammo count, here you can only use them once until you either die or finish the level, so I didn't end up using them very much, with the exception of Charger.
I gotta give credit for this game actually shaking things up a lot more than the previous titles. They even added some brand new gameplay elements, though most of those are tied to specific levels, so you know what that means? It's stage time, baby!
The first one I played was Frostman. As I'm sure you guess, it's a nice level. While it thankfully doesn't have any weird physics, it does have these annoying rocket board sections where if you even slightly miss a jump or slide, you die instantly, and the constant voice telling you to do those things gets really annoying. You also have to jump over a bunch of ice jumps. The boss punches you, summons ice crystals from the ground, and causes more ice chunks to fall on you. He's weak to Grenade Man's weapon. Next is Tengu Man, the sky level with a bunch of wind that makes jumping really annoying. This level also marks the return of Rush Jet, only here it turns the game into a 2D shooter complete with power-ups, and honestly I like this better than most of the earlier parts where Rush Jet was required, since at least here you don't have to worry about running out of fuel. The boss flies around shooting various tornadoes, and you gotta wait for him to swoop down or land to hit him with his weakness, which is Frostman's weapon. Clown Man, this level is essentially a giant toy castle complete with trains, these annoying balloon guys, and boxes that do various things when these guys in the background ring a bell. The mini-boss is this floating wheel, and Clown Man jumps around and swings, rolls into an electric ball, and reaches into the ground to shock you. He's weak to Tengu Man's weapon. And now for Grenade Man, his level is a factory with exploding barrels and swinging hammers. The mini-boss is an eye that spins garbage around it, and the boss just drops bombs, dashes, and shoots energy. Towards the end, he breaks the floor, and he's weak to Clown Man's weapon. After beating all 4 of them, Mega Man speaks with Dr. Light, who's fixed the giant space robot, and shows him these weird orbs he got from the Robot Masters. Dr. Light says their energy is unlike anything found on Earth, and that they need to find Dr. Wowie.
When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wowie.
The space bot then wakes up and destroys the orbs before flying through the ceiling, with Mega Man chasing after him. This leads to a short level through a mine that ends with you fighting him. He just bounces around and punches you, but then Proto Man shows up and says they're right in front of Wily Tower. Well, at least he shake things up this time. Mega Man dives into the cave, where he's captured by this giant robot being controlled by Wily, and then he's electrocuted, resulting in this blood-curdling scream that's really hard on the ears. But he's saved by the other robot, who properly introduces himself as Duo.
My name is Duo. I was born with the sole purpose to eliminate the evil energy from this universe.
Okay, my ears are still recovering from using the M-tanks in the NES games, but I could not hear any of that.
Duo says that energy is called evil energy, very creative, and that it magnifies the power of anyone who has it. They need to get into Wily Tower, but to break the seal, they need to defeat 4 new Robot Masters: Astro Man, Sword Man, Aquaman, not that one, and Search Man. Let's go with Astro Man. This is easily the most annoying level in the game, and as you jump on vanishing platforms, because I guess this is the new version of the blocks, and as you go through a maze that loops around and genuinely makes no sense. twice. Never in my life did I think I would need a walkthrough for a Mega Man game. You also have to run through this crumbling tower. Astro Man himself is also really annoying since he flies to the top of the screen and teleports, which makes him really hard to hit. He shoots green balls at you and summons a storm of green fire. He's weak to Grenade Man's weapon, as well as Search Man's, though. Good luck hitting him with that instead of these stupid orbs that spin around him. Aquaman is obviously the water level, which in Mega Man terms also means spikes, though you can actually swim in this game, which is interesting, if a little slippery. The mini-boss is this thing that you fight while going down a waterfall, and the boss shoots streams of water, balls of water, and makes a waterfall come up. He's weak to Astro Man's weapon. Sword Man as you go into a castle and complete 4 mini-challenges to open these pillars and make your way over insta-death lava. The mini-boss is a robot on the wall that opens up its weak spot, and the boss spins, slashes with a sword, and then fire, and drops a rock monument on you. He's weak to Aquaman's weapon. And finally, Search Man, which starts with a jungle and ends with a lab. Why does that sound familiar? The boss hides in bushes to snipe you with missiles and shoots a spinning blade. He's weak to Sword Man's weapon. Speaking of the weapons, you actually get an extra one in the first level called the Mega Ball, which pops out a ball you can kick to have it ricochet around, which is strong but super hard to aim. The Ice Wave shoots a string of ice spikes from the ground, which works great for small enemies. The Tornado Hole shoots a tornado that doesn't move but blows upward. The Thunderclaw is an electric beam. The Flash Bomb is the best weapon in the game since it's a strong bomb with a long explosion radius and you can fire multiple at once. The Astro Crush is a screen nuke, only the fire is pink instead of green, which is odd. The Water Balloon shoots a burst of water, which is honestly hard to aim. The Flame Sword is short but strong, and the Homing Sniper is a homing missile. Overall, a pretty good selection of weapons, and the game actually tells you exactly how many shots you have with them, which is neat. Plus, some are even incorporated into the level design, like the Tornado Hole pushing you upward, making it similar to the Rush Jet, and the Thunderclaw letting you grapple onto these hooks.
But now it's time for the Wily stages, which open with complete bullshit.
Literally, the very first thing you do is another board section, and I hate this with every fiber of my being. You move so fucking fast, and the platforms are so goddamn small that it is nearly impossible to get through this, especially since there were multiple times where I swear I hit the fucking jump button and it did jack shit. I don't know if there's some sort of input lag or if it just fucking hates me, but I don't care because this is up there with the final boss of Mega Man 7 as one of the worst things I've ever done in a Mega Man game. I was seriously on this one section for half an hour, which doesn't sound that bad, but when you realize the successful attempt only lasts a minute, that means it took me over 30 tries to beat this stupid fucking thing. I hate this so much, especially since the level keeps going, so if you get a game over, you gotta do it all over again because the Wily stages don't have continue points. Thank you so much, checkpoint saves. After that, it's just a bunch of platforming and a really annoying boss where the only way to hit the tube robot is by kicking the Mega Ball into the correct opening, and you literally have to aim for the one next to it, not the one you're actually going for. The second stage is you climb up a tower and then another jet section that ends with the boss fight where you need to shoot blue parts while avoiding missiles and lasers. The third stage is some really tight platforming and a fight with Base, who absorbs evil energy, letting him shoot a bunch of lasers. It's pretty easy once you figure out the pattern. After that, you got some more tight platforming and a boss fight against the Green Devil. He dissolves and uses his goopy body to attack you in different shapes like waves and spikes. He's weak to the Flash Bomb. The final stage is the traditional gauntlet of all 8 Robot Masters before finally confronting Wily. He nearly destroys Mega Man, but Duo dives in to save him. Proto Man then swoops in to save him, and the fight begins. The first phase, you gotta avoid the shots and the spinning thing while shooting him in the face and the mouth to prevent this giant laser from firing. It's also weak to the Flash Bomb. Then the second phase, he teleports and shoots orbs in different patterns, and thankfully it's nowhere near as hard as the last game. The hard part is just hitting him since he's weak to the Flame Sword, and you don't have E-tanks, so save Rush Charger for this. Afterwards, he begs for forgiveness like always, but then the evil energy is released from his machine and immobilizes Mega Man as the place starts to crumble. Duo manages to save Mega Man, though, and purges the evil energy from his body before leaving. Mega Man wakes up to see his friend, and later finds Proto Man, who passes on a thank you message from Duo, which he returns, and then we see Duo in the stars like he died or something.
Game conquered. Mega Man 8 is a fairly solid Mega Man entry. The level design can be obnoxious at times, but it's got some pretty cool additions and fun weapons that make it a step above 7 for me, though it's still not my favorite game in the series. Part of that might be because I can't help but feel like I'm missing something. Wait a minute. Wily doesn't bob his eyebrows in this game. I take back everything I said, this is a complete disaster, no wonder it almost killed the series.